The search for a boy lost in the woods comes to a devastating end as nightmare becomes reality for the family of 10-year-old Patrick McCarthy. His body recovered 2.5 miles from where he was last seen. News Now's Julie Raditsky joins us live with the latest. Julie? Airport security shaken after finding bags of knives on 2 planes. Those flights now grounded in Houston, Texas and New Orleans as the FBI searches all commercial flights for anything suspicious. Obvious disappointment today for Red Sox fans. What was 5 outs away from being a World Series weekend in Boston is now history. The night team's Brian Bates has reaction. From disappointment of the Red Sox to optimism as Manchester baseball fans are already lining up for season tickets to the new AA team coming next spring. Tickets go on sale tomorrow, but the Fenway Park groundskeeper from Londonderry involved in Saturday's bullpen brawl may sue 2 Yankee players. 24-year-old Paul Williams was working inside the Yankees bullpen when he began cheering for the Red Sox. Weather and mechanical factors ruled out in Wednesday's deadly ferry crash. But questions are rising whether the required minimum 2 people were at the controls. The reconstruction of Iraq raising more controversy. Senator John Sununu voting against a Senate measure requiring Iraq to repay money it's being given for reconstruction efforts. Another roadside bombing in Iraq claims the life of an American soldier and wounds 2 others. The victims are from the 220th Military Police Brigade. Well, it's time for the weekend to be here, and we're wondering if it's going to be a good weekend. Al Caprillion, what do you have for us? Lucas Tree cut down not 1, not 2, but 9 large trees from the front of Alexander's property. And that's not including the smaller trees they cut from the other side of his rock wall. Arrest warrant, police state Noble told an undercover detective he wanted his wife shot in the face, and all he wanted from her was the diamond off her hand. In these first 2 rooms, insurance will cover everything, including the furniture. But because the flood levels have never gotten this high before, insurance will not cover the furniture for the rest of the 6 rooms here. So that's just another loss the owners are going to have to suck up. We're here at Wesley Clark headquarters in Bedford at Sierra Sparks Restaurant, where you can just feel the excitement in this room. Supporters are flocking in by the dozens, everyone looking at the numbers, and they're all quite happy to see with nearly 3/4 of New Hampshire precincts reporting. Wesley Clark does have a small 3rd place lead over John Edwards. John Kerry is still in 1st place with a double-digit lead over Howard Dean. Wesley Clark is making a quick getaway to catch a plane to go to South Carolina, and from there he says it's all up to the voters. In Bedford, Cherilee, Budrick, WNDS News Now. Kim, it really is amazing when you look around here to think that only a couple of weeks ago there was water several feet high. And though there is still evidence of the flooding inside these businesses, construction crews, cleaning crews, business owners are working around the clock to ensure that their stores are in tip-top shape in time for the holiday.
We will get open by Saturday.
And if you look at Peggy Fennelly's store, you can see just how lofty that goal really is. While construction crews virtually rebuild her candy shop, she's trying to get the supplies to fill it.
Right now we're on our way to North Conway to pick up candy showcases. We found them in North Conway. We just came from Portland to get an ice maker. Now, after Conway, we've got to go to Woburn to pick up more candy.
She has about $100,000 worth of damage in merchandise to fix and replace. Her husband's jewelry store next door suffered about $80 grand in damage. Still, he's already up and running with the help of many volunteer cleaning crews.
Ordinary people doing such extraordinary things, it makes you feel good.
Saxony Imports is spending most of its days restocking items they put away before the floods hit. But some things, they admit, just can't go back on the shelves.
We've tried to minimize the loss that we have. I will be having a flood sale at some point.
While it's good news for most in York Beach, it's not for everyone. Some shops are still not going to be able to make it for the Memorial Day weekend.
The booths aren't going to be ready. They're buckled and stuff like that. Just finished putting the trim back together and, washing down everything again.
But he's staying positive, figuring he'll open the first weekend of June and make up for losses starting then.
What we need now is for people to know that the beach is open and they need to come down and enjoy what we have to offer, or to put it crassly, buy stuff.
I think buy stuff is the key phrase. Some business owners around here say that they'll likely break even this season from the flooding if they can have good sales starting out this Memorial Day weekend. Others say it may take a couple seasons to make up for the floods, and some still say they don't know if they'll ever make up for the flooding, but they're sure gonna try. Reporting live in York Beach, I'm Cherilee Budrick. Guys, Leroy Kimball is so frustrated about this pole. He says he'd pull it out himself, but he can't. It goes about 9 feet into the ground. He's called CMP, he's called Verizon, he even called the cable company to see if they could help, but basically he says all he got was the runaround. When a car crashed here last week, causing all this mess, Leroy Kimball thought his biggest challenge would be putting back together his old rock wall.
I want to put my mailbox back. I had a nice little garden right there by the pole. That's gone. Which all that could be replaced if they just get rid of the pole.
But that's turned out to be the biggest problem. No one seems to want to get rid of the pole for him.
It's the worst customer service I've ever seen in my life.
Kimball says he's made at least 20 calls to Central Maine Power and Verizon. Both say the other company is responsible for removing the pole.
I'm getting the biggest runaround by the CMP and Verizon, and that's not fair. Yesterday, Verizon sent a truck which slowed down, didn't stop, looked at the pole, went down the road, and 10 minutes later my phone rang telling me that it wasn't their pole.
Making matters more confusing, the pole had originally fallen across the entire driveway. CMP cut that pole into sections and piled the pieces. Verizon took those pieces away.
This here is ridiculous. I'm at loss of words. I don't know what to say.
So we made a few phone calls to the companies ourselves. Within an hour, a Verizon representative arrived at Kimball's home.
Whose pole?
But that was a question he couldn't answer just yet.
I gotta get the poll number here or there, and I'll check our records.
CMP told us their records aren't quite clear either. A few hours after our phone calls, it sent a crew to yank out the eyesore.
But nobody owns the pole.
CMP says they may never know who owns the pole, but they removed it anyway and will replace it to make Leroy Kimball happy. We did speak with a town representative with Public Works in Cape Elizabeth, and he says, incidentally, most of the poles in town were put in by Verizon, but as to who owns that pole, they don't know either. Reporting live in Portland, I'm Cherilee Budrick. Back to you guys. And the water left behind more problems than just wet property for the Town Line Motel. And every day their rooms are still being fixed is costing them not only the labor for that, but also loss of income.
Certain guests like their room, and I've got a gentleman upstairs in room 4 that always stays in 20, and he wants to know why he couldn't have his room. Well, when he showed up, he found out why.
What that guest saw is what this peaceful stream can do when it grows 20 feet higher and about 100 feet wider.
It's just overwhelming to believe that that little tiny brook can go do that much damage.
The bottom 8 rooms of Town Line Motel were flooded with at least 3 feet of water. It ruined all carpets, furniture, appliances, electrical wiring, and even some plumbing.
Well, they were rotted to here. And the time you patch it, it's cheaper to tear it all out and put it back.
By tearing it all out, they were able to save their upper 12 rooms from mold contamination and are now able to keep booking guests there.
At least we have some revenue. We can pay the bank and keep the lights on.
In these first 2 rooms, insurance will cover everything, including the furniture. But because the flood levels have never gotten this high before, insurance will not cover the furniture for the rest of the 6 rooms here. So that's just another loss the owners are going to have to suck up.
When you're mortgaged as it is, and then you're going to borrow money on top of that, and if they're going to charge your interest, it's going to take a long time to recoup our losses.
It leaves a sad feeling inside because it's the season. Season's here, and you should be up and operating, and we aren't.
The owners hope to have their lower 8 rooms rebuilt and furnished in time for renting July 4th. Kim, it's pretty safe to say most of us would be a bit put off if we came home to find the tree line in front of our home completely gone and cut down to timber. Timber left all over our property for us to clean up. And for David Alexander, it's no different. And what may be the most surprising part, though, as far as he can tell, it's all legal.
You look at it, it's pretty devastating.
This is the surprise that greeted David Alexander when he returned from vacation earlier this week.
It's all just fell into the woods. It stripped down branches. It knocked down some small trees.
CMP hired Lucas Trees to cut limbs near the power lines. Alexander says he told crews to just trim. So when he came home to this, he was shocked.
I had a bunch of beautiful trees here that were providing both, a barrier, a sound barrier, as well as a visual barrier to the residents that are now gone. I have damage to the stone wall. I have trees on my property that are damaged.
Lucas Tree cut down not one, not two, but 9 large trees from the front of Alexander's property. And that's not including the smaller trees they cut from the other side of his rock wall.
Lucas Tree said, well, it's not really our responsibility, it's CMP's, because they came by and told us to do more clearing. And CMP said, well, it's not really our responsibility, it's Lucas Tree, because they cut the trees. And I don't want to get in the middle of a blame game.
Alexander says he just wants the mess picked up and damage repaired. CMP officials tell us they did nothing wrong because the trees were all on the public right-of-way. But they want to work with Alexander on cleanup.
I can understand why Mr. Alexander's upset. I think it looks there were some substantial trees taken down. There's one tree that probably we might have talked to him before it was taken down in particular.
Public right-of-way has a twist to it. CMP has the right to cut trees without permission, but then the law says because the homeowner owns the lumber, it's his responsibility to clean it up.
Had I not called, this is what you would see here until I paid somebody or contracted with somebody to come remove it all. And I think that's ridiculous.
Lucas Tree officials declined to comment on camera, but told me they were working under the specifications of CMP. They have replaced the mailbox they damaged and picked up some of the chopped trees from Alexander's property. Central Maine Power officials say, unfortunately, with the huge growth in that area and many others in the state, this is an issue they're running into more often. They say they just hope that homeowners will work with them and be understanding. Kim?
Pow! 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 4 of them.
James Foote lives 2 blocks from the murder scene and says he heard shots at about 4 o'clock this morning. Now he and many others from the commercial and residential neighborhood are trying to figure out exactly what happened. Police got a call about 6:15 this morning. The caller had found 2 bodies off Calif Road. When police arrived, they found a man and a woman face down in the parking lot of Jelena's Motors.
At this time, the Manchester Police Department is treating the circumstances surrounding these deaths as apparent homicides.
It was quite a shock for Al Pike. He couldn't get into work this morning. Police blocked off his building and much of the area.
Especially in your own neighborhood. I mean, you don't expect stuff like this to happen.
The owner of Jelena's Motors says even though the crime happened in his parking lot, he knows nothing. He stands nearby with the rest of the neighborhood waiting for word the crime scene is clear and his business can go on as usual.
I was driving in and I heard on the radio they found bodies in South Manchester. Didn't realize it was this South Manchester.
Investigators ask if you have any information about this shooting to call Manchester Police at 603-668-8711.